Hello and welcome. Let's add some transitions in Olive. I'm gonna add some video clips and I'm gonna add one audio clip. Let's place them all in the timeline and let's start with some audio transitions. Right here we have a cut, as you can hear. Let's add a transition by pressing the transition button, and we can pick linear fade, exponential fade or logarithmic fade. Let's go for the linear one. Now we have to click and hold over this cut area and drag it to the side. And if we release, it creates a fade. And I highly advise against linear fades. Let's instead try an exponential one. Should sound better. Indeed it does. And now let's try the logarithmic one. We're gonna add it over here and let's play it back as well. So much for that. You can also use them on the ends of clips to fade out. Or of course to fade in. Over here, for example, at the beginning. Alright, let's remove all these audio tracks and focus on the video transitions now. So these are the video clips without any editing. Let's see what happens if we try to transition between two of them. Let's use the transition tool and pick Cross Dissolve, the only transition currently available in this version of Olive. Let's click this and try to drag, and it doesn't work because there are no frames left for the transition. What we can do instead is we can drag one of the clips on top of the other and then use the transition tool, Cross Dissolve, and fade one of them, the one above actually, fade that one in. So that works perfectly fine. An alternative would be, if I remove this transition, we could, for example, cut both clips, delete what's left over, put them next to one another, and now we can use the T Cross Dissolve tool and click and drag. And this will also create a crossfade. There we go. Currently you might notice that the right-hand side video is frozen. That is a bug that will surely be soon removed. We can also add fade to black and fade from black. Let's just hit Cross Dissolve again. And instead of hovering the center, we need to hover the left or the right clip and then click and drag. So this one will now fade to black. And then we have a cut. And we can do the same with the right-hand side and take a look. Fade out, fade in. Using the pointer tool, we can click on these transitions and delete them with the delete key. That's a feature I really like. We can also build our own transitions. For example, we can click on this clip, and here in the effects panel we can play around with, for example, scale. We can make a zoom in transition. Let's make sure that we are around half a second on the left of the cut. Let's click on this clock. Now we have one keyframe. Now let's jump to the end of this clip. I'm gonna hit the down arrow key on the keyboard and then the left arrow key once to go one frame to the left. Here I'm gonna add another keyframe with this icon, and I'm gonna set the scale to 1000. Let's take a look at this. Whoosh. And we're gonna do the same for this clip, but we're gonna zoom out. Let's set the normalization keyframe here, clicking the clock icon now. And I'm gonna press the up arrow key on the keyboard. And here I'm gonna set this to 1000. And it generates a new keyframe automatically. Let's take a look at all of this. Zoom in, zoom out. We can also modify how these keyframes behave by going to Window, Graph Editor. And let me just drag this onto Project. Now we can click these keyframes and we can modify how they behave in between, how they tween. We can set this to Bezier for a smoother ride. Let's set all these to Bezier and try it out again. So now it's a bit smoother, which you not necessarily want for a zoom transition. And what I also like to do is add a fade to black to these transitions. So I'm gonna hit T, Cross Dissolve, and I'm gonna add a cross dissolve on the left, not too long, and on the right, not too long. Okay, these were actually way too long. Let's move this to the left and this to the right. And we're gonna also make the zooms a bit shorter. So let's move this keyframe to the left, and let's move this keyframe to the right. Alright, that works for me. And we can also add a rotation. Why not? Let's actually get rid of the graph editor and the project so we have a little more space for the keyframes here. So we're gonna go to this keyframe, we're gonna add a keyframe for rotation. And move to the final one, set another keyframe for rotation, and we're gonna set this to 720. And on the right hand side clip, we're gonna go to the keyframe area, go to the first one, add keyframes to rotation, keep this at 0, go to a second keyframe, add one, set this to 720. Alright, so 2 spins on each side. Whoosh, whoosh. Silly, but fun. Boom, boom. Yeah, maybe a bit too silly. Let's actually move the rotation a bit further to the center. There we go. So this is a fancy little do-it-yourself transition. And now let's try to move this transition to over here. For this, we're gonna cut this clip here and we're gonna select the left-hand side clip. We're gonna just right-click the transform and copy it. Click on the first clip, which doesn't have any transitions. Right-click and paste. And we want to replace the transform. Now the problem is that these keyframes are outside of the area that we can access. So the trick we can do here is to click on the scroll wheel and keep moving it to the left until we see the keyframes that are out of range. We can select them and drag them to the left. Let's just jump to the end of a cut and then they will snap to the end. And let's test this. Right, the spin works. Now we can do the same for this part. Let's just copy this transform and paste it in here and replace. In this case, luckily it appears here at the beginning, so we can just select these and drag them to the left. And let's check it out. What is missing is the crossfade. We could add it as a transition, but since we are already copy-pasting these keyframes, we should use opacity for this. So let's zoom in by making this scroll bar smaller. And let's set an opacity keyframe here. Jump to the end and set this here to 0. We're going to do the same for this clip. Let's add a keyframe here. Jump to the beginning and set this to 0. There we go. So you have to copy the left and the right part, and you might have to do some work to reposition them, but at least you can make some complex transitions this way. And now I'm also going to make a sliding transition. As you can see, I cut out this 13 frames piece of video. I'm going to move this up, and I'm going to move the right video to the left. Now I'm going to make this video keyframe out of the screen, so I'm going to add position keyframes at the beginning and at the end. And at the end I'm going to set this to -960. And as for the video below it, I'm going to keyframe that one as well. I'm going to start one keyframe here for position at the beginning and one at the end. And I can have it like this, so the video just is behind it. Or I can make the video also slide in. In this case, I would move this to the right, which would be 2880. So that's also possible. Make sure to be subscribed so you see my new tutorials when there's new transitions in Olive. Watch my tutorials that I made so far. Let me know in the comments if you want to see something special, and give this video a like if it was any good. See you in the next video. Ciao!